In June 2025, major transits suggest a volatile yet opportunity-rich period for Bitcoin, XRP, altcoins, precious metals, and the dollar index. Venus entering Taurus, June 6, boosts market confidence and could initiate bullish sentiment, particularly in assets like Bitcoin that benefit from 10th house transits. Mercury and Jupiter entering Cancer, June 8, 9 signal a potential shift in sentiment and institutional positioning, favoring bullish trends in crypto. The full moon in Sagittarius, June 11, may trigger speculative excess, creating volatile reversals or culmination points. Mid-June features disruptive aspects, Mars square Uranus and Jupiter square Saturn, June 15, which typically bring corrections, unexpected volatility, or resistance zones in both crypto and metals. As Mars enters Virgo, June 17, XRP may gain strength. However, Jupiter square Neptune, June 19, points to disillusionment or inflated expectations, especially around narratives or institutional moves. The Sun and New Moon in Cancer, June 21, 25, restore optimism, and the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, June 24, may mark a bullish breakout, particularly for community and network-driven tokens. Precious metals could see supportive flows as confidence in fiat weakens, but DXY is likely to come under pressure throughout this cycle. Welcome back. In today's video, we're exploring financial astrology and the key astrological events in June 2025 that may impact Bitcoin, XRP, altcoins, gold, silver, and the DXY. We'll identify potential buy-the-dip opportunities, risk moments, and trends, along with the astrology of the Non-Farm Payroll report on June 6 and the FOMC rate decision on June 18. The second half includes a comprehensive trading calendar, offering insights for both experienced traders and those interested in financial astrology. Disclaimer: this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Please do your own research. Now join us on this crypto astrology journey and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. Major astrological transits, aspects, and events of June 2025. June 6, Venus in Taurus. On June 6, Venus will enter Taurus. Until July 4, in the 10th house of Bitcoin, the influence of Venus may create a bullish environment, particularly regarding Bitcoin's public image and institutional perception. The 10th house is associated with career, reputation, and authority, so this transit could positively impact Bitcoin's standing within the financial community. As Venus is linked to values and prices, this could translate to an increase in Bitcoin's value or widespread adoption during this period. Positive news, endorsements, or developments could elevate its status, enticing more institutional investment and broader public interest. For XRP, Venus is positioned in the 9th house. This transit may produce a more neutral to slightly positive influence for XRP. The 9th house governs expansion, higher learning, and international matters. This transit could stimulate new partnerships, especially in legal or regulatory contexts, as well as growth in its use cases globally. Bullish trends might emerge if XRP is able to leverage this time for strategic alliances or educational outreach. However, the influence might not be as strong as with Bitcoin, suggesting a more cautious, steadied approach in XRP's market performance. In the broader altcoin market, Venus in Taurus might cultivate a bullish sentiment, particularly for projects that emphasize security, stability, and tangible value propositions. Taurus energy is grounded and practical, which aligns well with altcoins that target real-world applications. Thus, we might see an uptick in interest and investment in those coins viewed as stable and valuable, while more speculative projects could experience mixed results depending on their fundamental appeal during this transit. When considering the dollar index and precious metals, Venus in Taurus could also have notable effects. Generally, Taurus rules Venusian themes of wealth and value, which might suggest a softer dollar. This could support a bullish trend for precious metals like gold and silver, as they are often seen as alternatives to fiat currencies when the dollar weakens. Investors may seek shelter in metals and cryptocurrencies, which can hike their prices if market sentiment is bullish overall. June 6, Non-Farm Payrolls. The June 6 Non-Farm Payrolls (NFP) report arrives under an exceptionally charged and complex astrological landscape, indicating a mixed to volatile response across the Bitcoin, XRP, and broader altcoin markets. With the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter all in late Gemini in Bitcoin's 10th house, public status and institutional perception, this signals heightened visibility, sharp reactions to economic data, and a strong influence from macro narratives, especially around employment and monetary policy. The markets may respond quickly and intellectually rather than emotionally, though the Moon in Libra in the second house of assets shows retail investors will weigh perceived fairness, value, and balance in their reactions. The Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, both square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, signals information overload, economic data distortions, or misleading signals. This aspect often reflects exaggerated expectations that are later corrected. The square from Mercury to Saturn can indicate hard news or a market reaction rooted in caution, regulation, or deflationary fears. Expect Bitcoin to show initial bullish excitement, especially if the jobs report is perceived as positive for liquidity or Fed dovishness, followed by bearish pressure or sharp reversals once Saturn's reality check sets in. This is amplified by Mercury also being tightly sextile Mars in Leo in the 12th house. Hidden agendas, backroom moves, or market maker action could accelerate the speed of short-term volatility. XRP, symbolized in part by Venus and its connection to the 8th house, shared resources, regulation, and debt, is in early Taurus, dignified, but squaring Pluto in Aquarius. This suggests regulatory tension, power plays, or deeper legal or compliance concerns may surface, possibly tied to broader systemic narratives. XRP may face neutral to bearish pressures, especially from institutions still uncertain about the regulatory framework. However, Venus also sextiles Jupiter and trines Mars, hinting at underlying strength and potential long-term accumulation, especially by those who see beyond the current legal drama. Altcoins are especially vulnerable under the sky. Jupiter squaring both Saturn and Neptune represents irrational exuberance colliding with harsh reality and disillusionment. The Moon sextile to Mars and trine to Jupiter indicates a temporary emotional uplift, likely in response to bullish headlines or a better-than-expected NFP number, but the Chiron opposition to the Moon and the node's quincunxes suggest unresolved pain points, especially for smaller, risk-on assets. Expect increased volatility and sector rotation, where only a few altcoins outperform and many lag or decline sharply. The dollar index, DXY, may initially react with strength, as Saturn and Jupiter's squares can indicate conflicting forces in monetary policy. However, the square from Jupiter to Neptune may undermine dollar confidence if the NFP is seen as exposing deeper fragility in the economy. Expect the DXY to show choppy or indecisive movement, reflecting this crosscurrent of optimism and disillusionment. Precious metals, especially gold, may benefit from the Venus-Pluto square and the Chiron influence, as these aspects often correlate with concerns over inflation credibility, systemic fragility, or investor protection. If the NFP is seen as triggering Fed hesitation, metals may rally. Gold and silver hold a slightly bullish bias under this configuration. Market participants should be especially cautious of false breakouts, sharp sentiment swings, and institutional positioning during this NFP window. June 8, Mercury in Cancer. On June 8, Mercury will enter Cancer, impacting the 11th house of both BTC and XRP. The 11th house is often associated with gains, community, and collective goals, suggesting that this transit might influence collaboration within the crypto community, awareness of social trends, and the ethos surrounding decentralized finance. As Mercury transitions through Cancer until June 26, we can expect a wave of communication and networking to permeate the Bitcoin and XRP spaces. Cancer is a sign associated with nurturing, intuition, and home. The energies of community, collaboration, and emotional investment can bring both bullish opportunities and potential bearish reactions due to market volatility. Bullish influence. The emotional and nurturing aspects of Cancer may lead to positive sentiment in the crypto community, potentially driving prices upward as investors become more inclined to support projects that resonate with their values and interests. This transit might also encourage collective initiatives or gatherings that can raise awareness and enthusiasm around BTC and XRP. Bearish influence. However, given that Cancer is also prone to volatility in emotions, there may simultaneously be an influx of fear and uncertainty that could lead to erratic market behavior. Market participants might react more sensitively to negative news, which could result in heightened volatility. For the altcoin market, the same influences apply. An increase in communication and collaboration may lead to the flourishing of new projects and enhancements within existing ecosystems. If altcoins can leverage this energy effectively, we could witness rising interest and participation, which could be bullish for the overall crypto market. As Mercury enters Cancer, we should also consider its potential impact on the US dollar index, DXY, and precious metals like gold and silver. A softening of the dollar might occur as market sentiment shifts towards more emotional investments like cryptocurrency during this period. If investors perceive cryptocurrencies as a haven amidst inflation or market fluctuations, there may be a decrease in demand for the dollar. Precious metals could experience bullish momentum if uncertainty in the traditional markets grows. If emotions drive investors toward gold and silver during this transit, we might see an uptick in prices, reflecting a move to more stable assets compared to the more volatile nature of cryptocurrencies. June 9th, Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is entering Cancer, his sign of exaltation, on June 9th, 2025. This transit will last for approximately 1 year. Jupiter is often regarded as a planet of expansion, abundance, and growth. When it enters Cancer, a sign associated with emotions, nurturing, and home, its effects can manifest in nurturing growth in areas related to security, emotional well-being, and domestic matters. This is primarily seen as a positive transit, fostering opportunities and expansion. Jupiter's transit through the 12th house of Bitcoin can create a period where Bitcoin may not have a straightforward trajectory. The 12th house is often related to hidden matters, subconscious influences, and a need for reflection or retreat. We might see a mix of challenging emotional energy affecting BTC, marked by possibly hidden manipulations or strong speculation influencing its price. There could be moments of retreat where investors may reassess their positions. Overall, though, there may be a potential for hidden opportunities or innovations in the technology behind Bitcoin during this time, calling for patience. From June 9th, Jupiter is moving through the 11th house of XRP, which is linked to social networks, community, and humanitarianism. XRP might experience an uplifting influence. This transit can potentially favor XRP, possibly boosting its use in social and community-oriented initiatives. The global move towards new financial inclusivity might encourage investment and partnerships, creating networks that leverage the XRP ledger. Here, this placement can signify community support, collaborations, and positive social movements driving the price upward. Given Jupiter's influence in Cancer could signify emerging projects for altcoins that focus on security, communities, and emotional connections. Projects aligned with home-like security may gain traction. The general sentiment may foster a bullish environment where altcoins with strong community backing and utilities could thrive. Investors could be drawn to more emotionally resonant projects, leading to pronounced bullish momentum in select altcoins. During Jupiter's transit in Cancer, the dollar index may experience a neutral to potentially bearish strain, as emotional sentiment can lead to a reduction in risk appetite. However, fluctuations will heavily depend on concurrent economic factors. Precious metals often thrive during periods of emotional instability or uncertain markets. Jupiter's influence in Cancer may yield bullish sentiments for metals like gold and silver, especially if investors seek tangible assets for security and stability amidst fluctuations in the crypto market. June 11th, full moon in Sagittarius. The full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, 2025, occurs during a period of heightened optimism, overextension, and disillusionment, making this lunation a critical pivot point for sentiment in the crypto markets. The opposition between the Sun in Gemini and the Moon in Sagittarius is sharply accentuated by multiple squares involving Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, creating a web of inflated expectations versus sobering realities. This lunation likely acts as a moment of truth for Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins, especially for trends that have been built on weak or speculative narratives. Bitcoin is likely to face a mix of hype and pressure around this lunation. The full moon axis, Sun-Moon opposition, touches on the Gemini-Sagittarius polarity, highlighting information versus belief, and trading activity versus long-term vision. With Mercury square Saturn and Neptune, messaging and narratives around Bitcoin, e.g., ETFs, adoption headlines, or institutional inflows, may sound promising but could lack substance or clarity. This could lead to confused price action, where initial bullish enthusiasm fades quickly as doubts or contradictory signals emerge. Importantly, Jupiter, ruler of Sagittarius, is under pressure, forming exact squares to both Saturn and Neptune, and loosely opposing the Moon. This suggests that whatever optimism is sparked by the full moon, perhaps a price pump or breakout attempt, may soon encounter harsh macro or regulatory resistance. Expect volatility with a bearish lean, particularly if traders realize the market has outrun its fundamentals. Also, Chiron trine Moon and Mars indicates that this may be a healing or recalibration point, especially for traders burned by chasing recent moves. XRP and similar assets will likely feel the brunt of the Venus-Pluto square, which highlights hidden agendas, regulatory power struggles, and behind-the-scenes deals. Venus in Taurus craves stability, but Pluto in Aquarius adds a layer of systemic disruption and control. For XRP, this could represent court developments, rulings, or political maneuvers that shake confidence in a seemingly stable narrative. Lilith's opposition to Venus furthers this theme, emphasizing outsider narratives, suppressed truths, or backlash from the financial establishment. Expect sharp moves and potential bearish news flow unless clarity improves. Altcoins appear particularly vulnerable under this full moon. The Mars-Uranus square is a classic signature for market shocks, liquidation events, or tech-driven panic, especially in speculative assets. Coins without strong fundamentals or real-world use cases could see sudden drops or loss of investor confidence. Although Mercury's sextile to Venus may briefly support investor interest or buy the dip enthusiasm, it's not strong enough to outweigh the larger cautionary signals. Expect rotations out of riskier assets into perceived safety zones. The dollar index, DXY, may strengthen modestly as Saturn's conjunction to Neptune in Aries forms stabilizing sextiles to Uranus and Pluto. This rare configuration supports tight policy control and institutional power consolidation. If the crypto market shows weakness or confusion, traders may temporarily retreat to the dollar or treasuries. For precious metals, however, the Jupiter-Neptune square and Sun-Moon axis could encourage speculative buying, especially in gold, which often rallies during inflation fears or monetary policy uncertainty. Overall, gold may see a bullish lean, while silver responds more to short-term volatility. This full moon marks a turning point where inflated hopes clash with sobering truths. It is a time for risk management, clarity, and recalibration, especially for traders exposed to speculative positions. June 15th, Mars square Uranus on June 15th, 2025, the financial astrology landscape for Bitcoin, BTC, XRP, and altcoins appears to be marked by significant tension and volatility, primarily due to the simultaneous transit of Mars square Uranus and Jupiter square Saturn. Mars square Uranus typically brings disruptive energy, particularly regarding technology, innovation, and unexpected events. This aspect can lead to erratic market behavior, with potential for sudden price swings in BTC, XRP, and other altcoins. Traders might experience impulsive decisions driven by fear or excitement, resulting in heightened volatility. Bearish impact. Given Mars signifies action and urgent energy while Uranus symbolizes rebellion and unpredictability, there could be a wave of panic selling or irrational exuberance among investors, especially if unexpected news breaks on this date. Neutral to bearish for altcoins. While Bitcoin and XRP are often seen as more stable, altcoins may suffer more due to their typically higher volatility. Investors might flock to BTC and XRP during chaotic times, leading to a bearish trend for smaller cryptocurrencies. With Mars in Leo located in the second house of Bitcoin, representing personal finances and values, this indicates a potentially bullish period for BTC. Mars in Leo can imbue a sense of ambition, courage, and desire for recognition. The square to Uranus in Taurus, located in BTC's 10th house of career and public image, suggests that there may be disruptive changes. This can manifest as either a sudden surge in Bitcoin's value or unpredictable volatility. Bullish influences may arise from increased media attention or technological developments, whereas bearish trends could be sparked by regulatory news or security concerns. Overall, this transit suggests a mix to bullish sentiment for BTC, with potential for high volatility. Traders should be alert for sudden price swings, as the ambition and innovation inherent in Mars and Leo may clash with the unpredictability of Uranus. For XRP, Mars positioned in the 12th house can indicate hidden matters, self-subbining attributes, or issues related to privacy and secrecy. The square to Uranus presents challenges from unexpected changes or revelations that come to light regarding regulatory issues or market sentiment. The combination suggests uncertainty, making the XRP market potentially volatile during this period. Overall, this transit is likely to be bearish for XRP, reflecting stress and conflicting energies. Traders should be prepared for possible disruptions related to ongoing legal issues or shifts in market perception. Altcoins may follow a similar trajectory as Bitcoin, but with more pronounced volatility. Mars in Leo can prompt a rise in speculative behavior, driven by the desire for recognition and status among traders. The square to Uranus introduces unpredictability, leading to potential rallying around promising projects or, conversely, swift corrections fueled by panic. Overall, the altcoin market may experience a mixed impact, with certain coins gaining reputation and value while others suffer from sharp corrections. As Bitcoin and altcoins often show inverse relationships to the dollar index, the Mars square Uranus transit may indicate possible weakness in the dollar, particularly if the market reacts positively to risk assets like cryptocurrencies. Unforeseen economic shifts, influenced by Uranus, could lead to a bearish outlook for the dollar during this period. Precious metals, like gold and silver, may also experience bullish behavior if the dollar weakens against the backdrop of the transiting aspects. With Mars in Leo's assertive nature and Uranus's unpredictability, there could be an influx of investment in safe havens during times of uncertainty in the cryptocurrency markets. Expect heightened volatility across both crypto and traditional markets. June 15, Jupiter square Saturn. The Jupiter square Saturn aspect is marked by a clash between expansion, Jupiter, and contraction, Saturn. This signifies potential challenges amid attempts to grow, which can lead to economic stagnation or crisis. Jupiter in Cancer in the 11th house indicates a focus on community, friendships, and group outcomes. While there's potential for network growth, the square with Saturn in Aries suggests that this growth might face significant challenges. Jupiter's expansive energy may be curtailed by Saturn's restrictive nature, rendering the environment for these cryptos stagnant or disappointing. There may be regulatory challenges or public sentiment issues that hinder growth. The dual influence of Mars square Uranus and Jupiter square Saturn on the same day suggests a profound tension in both immediate and long-term trajectories for Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins. The possibility of sudden, unanticipated events driven by Mars-Uranus might clash with the constraining challenges posed by the square between Jupiter and Saturn. The confluence of these factors leads to a bearish market sentiment, characterized by anxiety and potential panic. Traders should remain vigilant about the unpredictability associated with Mars and Uranus while being wary of the constraining influence from Jupiter and Saturn. On this same day, market participants may also be closely watching the dollar index and precious metals as they react to the energy in the crypto markets. The dollar index could show mixed movements, likely correlating with the volatility in the crypto space. Given a bearish sentiment in crypto, some investors might rotate into cash, USD, leading to strength in the dollar. Gold and silver may react positively to a bearish crypto market as investors seek safer havens amid uncertainty. If crypto experiences significant price drops due to panic, we could see increased demand for precious metals, reflecting a classic flight to safety. June 15, 2025, presents a challenging day for Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins under the influence of the Mars square Uranus and Jupiter square Saturn aspects. Expect heightened volatility, potential bearish trends in the crypto markets, and a complex interaction with the dollar index and precious metals as traditional safe haven assets may gain traction amidst uncertainty. Investors should prepare for a tumultuous period as these powerful transits unfold. June 17, Mars in Virgo. Mars is entering Virgo on June 17, 2025 and stays there until August 6. Mars represents action, energy, and assertiveness, while Virgo is associated with practicality, attention to detail, and service. When Mars transitions into Virgo, its energy becomes more focused on efficiency, analysis, and strategic planning. This could lead to a period where the cryptocurrency markets experience heightened scrutiny and a push for more grounded, practical applications of blockchain technology. For Bitcoin, Mars entering Virgo falls in its second house of finances and resources. This suggests a potential bullish influence, as there may be increased investor demand for Bitcoin as a store of value or for its perceived utility in a more practical financial ecosystem. During this transit, we might see a focus on Bitcoin's utility in transactions and its role as a hedge against economic uncertainty. That said, because of Virgo's critical nature, there could also be a tendency for bearish corrections as traders scrutinize Bitcoin's fundamentals, leading to potential price volatility. In the case of XRP, Mars enters the first house, indicating a period of renewed energy and visibility. This move could bolster XRP's market presence and promote initiatives that highlight its utility in cross-border transactions and remittances. However, with Virgo's analytical energy, XRP may face rigorous tests of its operational efficiency and branding, potentially leading to both bullish momentum and critical bearish evaluations from the market. This dual energy might create a roller coaster effect on XRP's price during this period, so traders should be prepared for fluctuations. For the altcoin market, Virgo's analytical nature suggests that investor sentiment could become more selective. Projects that emphasize utility, performance metrics, and real-world applications are likely to receive more attention, which may result in a bullish outlook for those altcoins demonstrating strong fundamentals. Conversely, projects that lack transparency or utility may suffer during this time, leading to a more bearish sentiment for speculative or less substantiated altcoins. As Mars transits Virgo, its influence on the dollar index and precious metals might revolve around the matter of risk aversion and practical asset valuation. If Bitcoin and select altcoins gain traction as credible financial tools, this could create downward pressure on the dollar, particularly if investors view cryptocurrencies as alternative safe haven assets. Alternatively, if economic fundamentals are perceived to weaken, precious metals might experience bullish momentum as barriers rise against inflation or currency devaluation. Overall, the transition of Mars into Virgo from June 17, 2025, offers a blend of potential bullish and bearish influences across the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin may see increased scrutiny with some bullish undertones, while XRP could experience renewed visibility amidst volatility. The altcoin market could exhibit more selective bullishness, favoring projects grounded in strong fundamentals, while the dollar index faces potential challenges from cryptocurrencies positioned as alternative assets. Precious metals might serve as a counterbalance, with possible bullish sentiment amidst broader market anxieties. Preparedness for both bullish optimism and critical analysis will be essential during this transit. June 18, Fed interest rate decision and economic projections. The June 18 Fed interest rate decision and economic projections unfold under a tense and complex astrological sky, signaling a highly reactive market environment for Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins. With the Sun at 27 degrees Gemini squaring the Moon in Pisces, and tightly aspecting Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, this decision could provoke both optimism and confusion, resulting in whipsaw volatility. Traders and investors may struggle to interpret the Fed's tone, with the Moon in Pisces, fourth house of emotional security and foundations, reflecting a collective desire for safety and stability amid an uncertain macro backdrop. Bitcoin is likely to experience choppy or whipsaw price action, marked by bursts of bullish enthusiasm followed by corrective dips. The Sun's conjunction with Jupiter in Cancer, 8th house, and sextile to Mars in Virgo suggests an initial positive reaction, possibly driven by dovish language or upgraded economic projections. However, the Sun squares to Saturn and Neptune introduce doubt and disillusionment, revealing the market's deeper fear that the Fed's outlook may be either overly optimistic or lacking clarity on inflation. This creates a bearish undertone beneath any rally. Additionally, Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune mirrors a tug-of-war between growth optimism and the harsh limits of policy, which could frustrate Bitcoin bulls after any breakout attempts. XRP and regulatory-sensitive coins, Venus in Taurus, solid, security-oriented, forms a tense opposition to Lilith in Scorpio, highlighting underlying power struggles, likely connected to regulation and legal clarity. XRP may face a neutral to bearish influence, especially if the Fed's outlook raises concerns about tightening liquidity or an uncertain regulatory path for digital assets. Venus's lack of strong supportive aspects and its position in the 6th house, routine, labor, regulation, suggests the market may focus on practical limitations rather than visionary growth. Still, the node's trine to Mercury hints that positive developments or clarity may emerge through messaging or legal communication, but timing and interpretation remain delicate. Altcoins appear more vulnerable under this astrological weather. Mars at 0 degrees Virgo is square Uranus and quincunx both Saturn and Neptune, forming a tense square pattern involving unpredictable shocks and the theme of maladjustment. This often shows up as sudden sell-offs, de-risking, or breakdowns in speculative areas, especially for low-cap and meme coins. While some infrastructure-related or utility-driven tokens might hold up due to the Mars-Jupiter sextile, most altcoins are likely to feel the weight of macro uncertainty and technical resistance. Risk appetite may decline sharply if the Fed signals prolonged restrictive policy or ambiguity on inflation. With Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries and both squaring the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, the dollar index, DXY, may be caught in a crosscurrent. If the Fed leans dovish or cautious, DXY could weaken slightly, but if Powell stresses inflation vigilance, the dollar could gain strength, especially as Saturn's influence supports structure and restraint. Expect a neutral to slightly bullish DXY bias in the short term. Meanwhile, precious metals, especially gold, may benefit from this astroclimate. The Pisces Moon, Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and Jupiter square Saturn all point to a flight to safety and concerns about monetary credibility. Gold could see a bullish reaction if the Fed appears unsure or hedges its tone too much. Traders should remain cautious, flexible, and emotionally detached. This Fed meeting introduces a major macro turning point, and markets may not digest it cleanly. June 19, Jupiter square Neptune. With Jupiter positioned in Cancer and in the 12th house, it generally symbolizes a period of introspection and possibly hidden factors impacting Bitcoin. This transit can bring forth subconscious fears or illusions surrounding the crypto market, leading to speculative enthusiasm that may not be based on solid fundamentals. The square to Neptune in Aries, 9th house for BTC, can foster confusion, misinterpretation, or over-optimism in long-term projections and legal matters regarding cryptocurrency regulations. Influence on BTC, bearish. There may be an increase in volatility, with potential sharp price movements based on speculation rather than reality. The influence of the 12th house might indicate a need for caution, as hidden risks can surface unexpectedly. For XRP, represented by the 11th house Jupiter in Cancer, the focus will likely be on innovation within communities and networks. Here, too, Jupiter's square to Neptune may exacerbate unrealistic expectations about technological advancements or partnerships. This square can manifest as a crisis of faith among investors regarding XRP's long-term utility, particularly as many believe it is a key player in the future financial ecosystem. Influence on XRP, bearish but mixed. While there could be community-driven support pushing prices up, the risk of disillusionment stemming from unmet expectations can undermine investor confidence, leading to price corrections. The altcoin market as a whole may experience similar dynamics as both Bitcoin and XRP. With Jupiter in the 12th and 11th houses, there could be waves of speculative interest intertwined with prevalent FOMO, fear of missing out, among investors. However, with the strong influence of Neptune, there could be considerable distortion leading to false narratives overpowering grounded, rational investment approaches. Influence on altcoins, bearish with pockets of bullishness. Select projects may shine based on new developments, but many could struggle as market sentiment turns sour due to fears and potential regulatory uncertainties. As for the dollar index, this transit could emphasize a period of uncertainty, potentially leading to a weaker dollar if investor sentiment pivots towards alternative assets like cryptocurrencies. Jupiter's influence might create bullish pressure on risk assets, while Neptune's illusions can create hesitance in forex markets. Influence on DXY, neutral to bearish for the dollar. It may weaken in correlation with crypto excitement but face upward pressure if investors flock to traditional safe havens when the risks surface. Jupiter square Neptune may lead to fluctuating investor sentiment in precious metals like gold and silver. If the cryptocurrency market experiences downturns due to disillusionment, some investors might seek the security of precious metals, thereby driving prices up. However, if the enthusiasm for cryptos overshadows traditional assets, precious metals could face downward pressure. Influence, neutral to bullish. Precious metals may gain attention as a hedge against market volatility stemming from crypto uncertainties. June 21st, Sun in Cancer. On June 21st, the Sun will enter Cancer, marking the summer solstice and a significant energy shift in the tropical zodiac. This transit is positioned in Bitcoin's 12th house, thus its influence tends to lean towards introspection, hidden factors, and psychological undercurrents in the market. The 12th house is often associated with the unseen and can indicate a time when investors might be grappling with fear, uncertainty, and hidden agendas that could lead to erratic price behavior and bearish influences. This period may present challenges, with potential sell-offs reflecting collective fears or uncertainties. Investors could feel the weight of market sentiment and act defensively, creating a bearish trend. On the flip side, the 12th house can sometimes lead to latent opportunities or the emergence of new insights from past experiences. It's possible that innovations or more secure frameworks could slowly develop, leading to positive movements once the transit concludes. For XRP, the Sun's entrance into Cancer, located in the 11th house, will enhance focus on community, networks, and collective aspirations. This house is associated with social platforms, alliances, and future goals and bullish influences. This transit could foster positive sentiment within the XRP community, attracting alliances and partnerships that could propel its value. The potential for collaborative initiatives might emerge, increasing investor confidence and leading to bullish price action. However, with the presence of Cancer's sensitivity, there may also be fluctuations driven by group sentiment or broader market trends related to regulatory news or technological advancements that affect the community associated with XRP. For the broader altcoin market, trends might reflect a mixed bag due to the varied influences from individual placements. The nurturing aspect of Cancer might lead to more emotional trading, and altcoins with innovative or community-based projects may thrive. Generally, the altcoin market could experience fluctuations in choppy waters, with some tokens potentially benefiting from a surge in community interest, while others might suffer from market sentiment vulnerability typical of the Cancer influence. In regards to the dollar index and precious metals, the Cancer transit may not create direct correlations but is relevant for overarching market sentiment. If the dollar strengthens during this period, it could lead to tighter liquidity, adversely affecting cryptocurrency valuations. Typically, precious metals like gold and silver may benefit from increased uncertainty or bearish phases in alternative investments, like cryptocurrencies. If fear in the market rises, metals could see a bullish trend. June 24th, Sun conjunct Jupiter. On June 24th, the Sun-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer, occurring in the 12th house of Bitcoin, suggests a period of introspection, behind-the-scenes developments, and possibly hidden opportunities. This transit may herald a time when Bitcoin could experience bullish prospects, driven by increased optimism in underlying technologies or projects. However, the 12th house can also indicate hidden challenges or a need for caution. Investors might see a rise in innovative projects related to Bitcoin or a reinvigoration of interest in its foundational principles. For XRP, with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction occurring in the 11th house, there may be a focus on community and collaborations. This sector governs friendship, groups, and collective endeavors, indicating a potential bullish phase for XRP as partnerships or influential endorsements could emerge. Positive developments or a rally in institutional interest might also reinforce XRP's standing in the market during this time. The conjunction could inspire confidence among holders and lead to a more cohesive community around the XRP ecosystem. The Sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer generally promotes growth and optimism, which can also favor the altcoin market as a whole. The nurturing qualities of Cancer may encourage innovation, helping new projects and altcoins gain traction. Investors might feel more generous and willing to support emerging technologies. This could present a favorable trading environment for altcoins, leading to price increases and more market engagement. Given the expansive energy of Jupiter in a favorable position, this transit may weaken the US dollar in the short term. A bearish influence on the dollar index could spur investors to seek alternatives, potentially benefiting cryptocurrencies and precious metals. The nurturing and protective qualities of Cancer align well with gold and silver, suggesting a potentially bullish phase for precious metals as investors flock to these safe haven assets. June 25th, New Moon in Cancer. The new moon in Cancer on June 25th marks a deeply emotional and intuitive reset point for the financial and crypto markets. Occurring at 4 degrees Cancer, this lunation tightly conjuncts Jupiter and sextiles Mars, signaling strong impulses for growth, protection, and bold moves. However, the mood is also marked by caution and confusion, due to concurrent squares from the new moon and Jupiter to Saturn and Neptune, creating tension between ambitious expansion and real-world limitations or unclear signals. This results in mixed but meaningful influences for digital assets, driven by optimism, but quickly tempered by external pressures. Bitcoin may see a temporary bullish push around this new moon, driven by the Sun-Moon-Jupiter conjunction, a powerful aspect signaling hopeful sentiment, increased public attention, and potentially favorable news or liquidity injection. The sextile to Mars in Virgo adds precision and momentum, potentially linked to institutional positioning or technical breakout setups. However, the square to Saturn and Neptune warns that underlying structural pressures, regulation, interest rate fears, or mixed economic data could trigger sudden hesitation or reversals. This lunation favors short-term bullish moves, but with heightened risk of correction following if market expectations prove too lofty. XRP is especially influenced by this new moon due to the Cancer emphasis, which aligns with issues of protection, policy, and homeland financial systems, themes often relevant to XRP's role in cross-border regulation and its legal battles. The moon square to Saturn and Neptune suggests that institutional or government bodies may project mixed or controlling narratives, possibly hinting at regulatory updates or unclear judicial outcomes. However, the sextile from the North Node to Venus, and Mercury's strong trine to Saturn, suggests a stabilizing undercurrent for long-term utility tokens like XRP, even amid short-term confusion. This produces a neutral to slightly bullish tone, slow progress but resilient. Altcoins face a divergent environment. While Jupiter's involvement in the new moon suggests money flow into risk assets, the Neptune and Saturn squares suggest only well-positioned or narrative-backed altcoins will benefit. Projects lacking strong fundamentals or clear utility may face investor pullback when reality begins to set in. Mars sextile Jupiter could trigger rotation into smaller cap coins, but Uranus's square to Mars, even if separating, carries residual shock energy, implying potential flash crashes or hacking events could spook sentiment. Overall, altcoins sit in a neutral to volatile zone. Some will rally, many will consolidate or sell off. The dollar index, DXY, may weaken mildly around this lunation. The Mercury trine Neptune and trine Saturn suggest soothing central bank language or an effort to maintain stability. However, Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune can also signal loss of confidence in economic guidance or fear of stagflation, which might pressure the dollar. This opens the door for precious metals, especially gold, to gain. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries continues to anchor a slow-motion reshaping of economic narratives, where metals may outperform fiat, and Bitcoin may occasionally be grouped with safe haven assets, giving BTC a chance to track with gold on bullish days. This Cancer new moon sets a protective, reactive tone in markets, where emotions and instincts guide decisions more than facts. It's a window for testing conviction, and a call for traders to balance growth ambitions with strategic defense. June 26, Mercury in Leo. Mercury is entering Leo on June 26, and due to its retrograde between July 18 and August 11, it will be a long stay until September 2. Mercury represents communication, commerce, technology, and intellectual pursuits. When it enters the sign of Leo, it often fosters an environment filled with creativity, boldness, and a desire for recognition. Leo's influence encourages individuals and entities to showcase their ventures and innovations, which can lead to increased public interest and speculative trading. For Bitcoin, Mercury positioned in the first house suggests a period of personal branding and self-expression. The first house is associated with identity, making this an opportune moment for Bitcoin to assert its dominance as the original cryptocurrency. The influence of Mercury in Leo could lead to positive narratives surrounding Bitcoin, potentially attracting new investors and enthusiasts. Influence, bullish. The market may experience heightened confidence and increased trading volumes as Bitcoin is seen as the leader and innovator in the crypto space, fueling bullish sentiment. For XRP, Mercury is positioned in the 12th house, often associated with hidden matters, institutions, and self-undoing. This house can sometimes signify challenges or behind-the-scenes struggles. With Mercury in Leo, XRP might experience a push for more transparency and public advocacy, especially considering its ongoing legal battles and regulatory scrutiny. Influence: neutral to bearish. While there may be an initial surge in interest due to increased communication efforts, the inherent challenges of the 12th house could counterbalance optimism. Investors may remain cautious, reflecting a mixed sentiment about XRP's long-term viability in the face of ongoing institutional hurdles. For the broader altcoin markets, the mercurial influence in Leo may spur a creative wave, encouraging new projects and innovations. The boldness of Leo can lead to speculative enthusiasm as various altcoins leverage the prevailing positive sentiment to attract attention. Influence: bullish. This period may see increased interest in new or existing altcoins, particularly those that can captivate the imagination of investors and showcase unique value propositions. Speculative trading could ramp up, leading to potential micro-bull phases for various altcoins. Now, with Mercury in Leo affecting cryptocurrencies, one must also consider its ripple effect on traditional markets, including the dollar index and precious metals. Typically, a confident and innovative atmosphere can lead to a weakened dollar, particularly if investors are more inclined to venture into speculative assets like crypto. The dollar index influence: bearish. If cryptocurrencies gain momentum during this transit, it could lead to a reduction in the dollar's strength as more capital flows into the digital asset space. Precious metals often serve as a safe haven during economic uncertainty. The dynamics induced by Mercury in Leo may foster a range of responses in this sector, keeping precious metals trading in a relatively neutral position as investors balance risk between digital and tangible assets. June 2025, a market outlook: bullish expansion, met with caution. The month of June 2025 in the crypto markets, especially for Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins, is characterized by rapid sentiment shifts, major trend inflection points, and a tug-of-war between optimism and structural uncertainty. Several major planetary ingresses, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and the Sun, all changing signs, 2 significant lunations, and volatile squares involving Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus set the stage for an active, potentially bifurcated market with bullish windows and sharp reversals. The month begins with Venus conjunct Chiron in Aries, June 1st, stirring themes of value recovery and healing investor sentiment. By June 6th, Venus enters Taurus, a financially comfortable sign, bolstering store of value narratives and institutional interest. This favors Bitcoin's brand as digital gold, giving early month price action a mild bullish bias. Around June 8th, Mercury and Jupiter both conjunct at 29 degrees Gemini, a volatile final degree energy, then enter Cancer, followed by Jupiter's square to Saturn, June 15th, and square to Neptune, June 19th. This signals a shift from quick, speculative moves to emotionally reactive, macro-sensitive flows. Jupiter in Cancer is often associated with defensive growth, which may lead Bitcoin to act more like a safe haven, tracking with gold rather than tech stocks. Still, these Jupiter squares bring confusion, disappointment, or overestimation in monetary policy expectations, heightening volatility, especially around Fed announcements, June 18th. Expect choppy trading between June 14th, 21, with market sentiment swinging between FOMO and fear. The new moon in Cancer on June 25th, conjunct Jupiter and sextile Mars, offers a renewal of optimism, particularly for long-term holders. If BTC can hold key support zones by then, a bullish breakout or recovery rally is possible into late June. However, Sun and Mercury squares to Saturn and Neptune earlier in the month, June 9th, 23, warn that manipulation or policy uncertainties could cap upside or lead to emotional sell-offs. Traders should watch for fake-outs or news-based whiplash. XRP, which is often responsive to legal, regulatory, and institutional shifts, benefits from Mercury and Jupiter's move into Cancer, aligning with the water trine energy, especially after the new moon. This indicates a more nurturing, structured environment for long-term infrastructure coins and possible softening in regulatory narratives. However, Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune also implies delays, miscommunications, or policy overreach, especially from U.S. authorities. XRP remains resilient, but not immune to mid-month confusion. Altcoins, especially speculative or DeFi tokens, face a more split environment. The Mars square Uranus, June 15th, is a red flag for sudden crashes, exploits, or liquidity rug pulls, particularly in overleveraged sectors. This aspect is notorious for unexpected tech or platform-related stress events. Traders in altcoins should prepare for sudden breakdowns or market shocks, particularly from June 12, 17. On the other hand, Venus in Taurus, entire second half of the month, and Mercury's move into Leo, June 26, help lift higher quality and narrative-driven altcoins, especially those related to AI, finance, and real-world integration. The dollar index, DXY, is under gradual weakening pressure throughout June. Jupiter and Mercury's entry into Cancer, along with their squares to Neptune and Saturn, reflect erosion of economic confidence, poor forward guidance, or increased deficit concerns. Around the June 18 Fed meeting, expect mixed messages, triggering sharp reactions in USD and risk assets alike. This plays well for precious metals, especially gold, which may rally on safe haven demand fueled by Saturn-Neptune confusion and waning dollar strength. Bitcoin could again correlate positively with gold, especially after the Cancer new moon, while DXY weakness may help support altcoins, as long as no policy shocks erupt from mid-month aspects. Moon trading calendar, June 2025 June 1, 2025, Moon in Leo aspects, Venus conjunct Chiron, Aries, Moon conjunct Mars, Moon square Uranus sentiment, bearish, volatile score, 3.510. This is a high emotion, high volatility day. The Moon in Leo conjunct Mars triggers impulsive trading behavior and risk-taking, while its square to Uranus brings instability and unexpected moves in both crypto and traditional markets. Venus conjunct Chiron adds emotional wounds to the collective, which can manifest as fear or regret-based selling, especially in risk-on assets like altcoins and low-cap tokens. This is a risk-off window, with vulnerability to flash drops or emotional panic. Not a good day for major buys or sells, stay nimble. Bitcoin and XRP could test support levels. Avoid leverage. Gold and silver may benefit as safe havens, DXY likely flat or slightly bid. Vulnerable period, June 1 evening UTC. Not a buy the dip day, better setups come soon. June 2, 2025, Moon in Virgo aspects, first quarter Moon square Sun, Moon squares Mercury and Jupiter, Moon opposes North Node sentiment, neutral to slightly bearish score, 4. 5:10. The Moon in Virgo brings a more analytical, cautious mood. However, a slew of squares, Sun, Mercury, Jupiter adds internal market conflict. Expect indecision, lack of conviction, and possible choppy sideways price action. First quarter moons often represent turning points, and this one feels like a preparation phase before stronger moves later in the week. Traders are still absorbing the shock from the prior Leo volatility. XRP and alts may lag, while Bitcoin tries to hold its range. Caution dominates, it's not yet time to buy aggressively. Risk-off bias remains. Vulnerable period, June 3, for lack of momentum, trendless chop. Watchlist setup, if XRP and high-cap alts show resilience, scalp trades only. DXY may attempt a minor bounce, gold-silver likely quiet. June 4, 6, 2025, Moon in Libra aspects, Moon opposes Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, Venus sextile Jupiter, Venus enters Taurus, Mercury sextile Mars. Chiron sentiment, bullish reversal begins score, 6.810. This is a key turning point for crypto sentiment. Despite emotional weight early on, Moon opposite Saturn plus Neptune equals mental fog plus self-doubt, the tone shifts by June 5, 6. Venus enters Taurus, her domicile, stabilizing emotional trading behavior. Mercury sextile Mars and Chiron energizes communication and strategic decision-making. Venus sextile Jupiter is a favorable expansion aspect. Optimism and moderate buying can return, especially in Bitcoin and major altcoins like ETH and XRP. Look for whales to start accumulating quietly. Buy the dip opportunity, June 5, 6, especially if Bitcoin pulls back intraday. Transition from risk-off to risk-on, slowly increasing appetite for upside. DXY may soften, gold and silver rebound mildly. Not a full bull breakout, but good time to scale in long-term positions. June 7, 9, 2025, Moon and Scorpio aspects. Moon opposes Venus, squares Pluto and Mars, opposes Uranus. Mercury conjunct Jupiter, enters Cancer, squares Saturn sentiment, bearish, emotional and reactive score, 310 the Moon in Scorpio with hard aspects to Venus, Mars, Pluto, and Uranus sets up an intense, reactive, and unstable environment. A classic setup for a rug pull or manipulation event, especially around June 9. The Mercury-Jupiter conjunction may initially bring hope or bullish news headlines, but its immediate entry into Cancer and square to Saturn creates a harsh come-down or disappointment. Sentiment turns from greed to fear rapidly. Expect a spike in volatility, especially for high-beta altcoins. Whales could exploit emotional retail sentiment. XRP may underperform during this window. Vulnerable period, June 8, 9, high volatility, emotional selling, FUD. Risk off strongly, wait for clarity before adding exposure. Avoid leveraged long positions, ideal for short-term traders only. Gold may shine as safe haven, DXY attempts to recover but faces resistance. June 9, 11, Moon in Sagittarius, full moon in Sagittarius, Jupiter enters Cancer aspects, Venus square Pluto, Mercury square Neptune, full moon in Sag, Mars trine Chiron, Mercury sextile Venus sentiment, bullish but speculative with a shadow of volatility score. 6.510 This period opens with a major tone shift as Jupiter enters Cancer, a placement that tends to favor emotional security over high-risk speculation. However, the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11 can inflate optimism and exaggerate market moves, both up and down. The Venus-Pluto square warns of underlying power plays or manipulative pump-dump cycles in altcoins. Still, the Mars, Chiron trine and Mercury-Venus sextile support emotional healing and more collaborative sentiment, which can drive buy the dip activity, especially in Bitcoin and XRP, if pullbacks occur around June 10. Fear and greed. Greed peaks briefly near full moon, watch for irrational exuberance. Risk mode. Mild risk on for majors, caution for small cap alts. Best plays. Gradual re-entry into solid alts and Bitcoin on dips. XRP has a short-term upside window. Precious metals, gold and silver hold steady. DXY, mild weakening as optimism shifts toward inflationary assets. Vulnerable period, June 9, deceptive news headlines, Mercury, Neptune. Buy the dip window, June 10 after early volatility shakes out. June 12, 14, Moon in Capricorn, Sun square North Node aspects, Moon squares Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, opposes Jupiter, Mercury, Sun square Node sentiment, bearish, correction and consolidation phase score, 3.510 The Moon in Capricorn brings a serious, cautious tone. Hard aspects to Saturn and Neptune restrict optimism and confidence. The Sun square the North Node raises collective uncertainty, possibly around regulatory actions, central bank policy, or institutional sentiment toward crypto. Mercury's opposition via the Moon adds communication distortions or delays, making this a noisy, confusing period. Expect range-bound or downward pressure on Bitcoin and altcoins. XRP may underperform due to regulatory overhang or weak volume. Fear and greed. Fear rises, particularly among retail traders. Risk mode, risk off, capital preservation favored. Best plays, reduce exposure to speculative assets, no new major buys. Precious metals, likely quiet or slightly higher as defensive plays. DXY, could show strength as liquidity pulls from risky assets. Not a buy zone yet. Wait for stronger confirmation next phase. Vulnerable period, June 13th, sentiment breaks down amid confusion. June 14th, 16, Moon in Aquarius, Mars square Uranus, Jupiter square Saturn aspects, Venus opposite Lilith, Mars square Uranus, Jupiter square Saturn, Moon square Venus Uranus, conjunct Pluto sentiment, highly bearish and volatile, expect sudden moves score. 2.510 This is the most dangerous and unpredictable window in this sequence. Mars square Uranus is a classic aspect for flash crashes, surprise sell-offs, or technical failures. With Jupiter square Saturn, there is a philosophical tug-of-war between expansion and restriction, which can reflect uncertainty in macroeconomic direction, especially around interest rates or global liquidity. Moon's conjunction with Pluto adds emotional pressure and fear, especially among over-leveraged retail traders. Altcoins, particularly high beta tokens, are extremely vulnerable to stop-loss hunts or algorithmic dumps. Fear and greed, extreme fear spike likely, may present liquidity traps. Risk mode, maximum risk off. Avoid adding exposure. Best plays, only experienced traders should engage, ideally on the short side or via hedging. Precious metals, could surge as capital seeks refuge. DXY, may spike on safe haven demand. Vulnerable periods, June 14th, 15, Mars, Uranus, June 16th, Moon, Mars opposition. Not a buying window, wait for the market to reset after the shock. June 16th, 18, Moon in Pisces, Mars enters Virgo, Fed rate decision aspects, Sun sextile Chiron, Moon conjunct North Node, last quarter Moon sentiment, neutral with bearish bias pre-FOMC score, 4. 510 This phase is steeped in uncertainty as the Pisces Moon blurs logic and visibility in the markets. The entry of Mars into Virgo brings a desire for precision and defensive positioning, but this contrasts with the emotional haze of the Pisces Moon and the looming Fed interest rate decision on June 18th. Expect traders to adopt a cautious, wait-and-see stance, especially in Bitcoin and altcoins, which may show lower volume and mild selling into strength. The last quarter moon marks a turning point and typically indicates a phase of review and consolidation, not initiation. Risk mode, risk off ahead of the Federal Fear and Greed Index, shifting toward fear, markets are defensive. Best plays, hedge positions or lighten exposure ahead of the federal Bitcoin and XRP, hold or trim, not a great entry point. Altcoins, vulnerable to dips due to weak hands and low conviction. Precious metals, may benefit short-term if Fed signals dovish tone. DXY, likely volatile. Watch June 18th reaction. Vulnerable period, June 18th pre-FOMC, avoid large trades. Not a buy the dip window yet, clarity is needed post-Fed, June 19th, 20 Moon in Aries, Jupiter square Neptune aspects, Moon conjunct Saturn and Neptune, square Jupiter and Mercury, Moon conjunct Chiron sentiment, bearish, confused enthusiasm meets harsh reality score. 310 This period is loaded with emotional overreaction and false optimism, driven by Jupiter square Neptune, one of the most deceptive and overinflated aspects in astrology. The Aries moon typically charges ahead, but its early conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune deliver a dose of confusion, disappointment, or misreading of economic or regulatory developments. Retail traders may jump the gun, thinking a rebound is in play, only to face sharp reversals. The square to Mercury on June 20th further distorts communication and market analysis, leading to high FOMO risk followed by quick dumps. Risk mode, High risk-off, liquidity traps, possible fear and greed, whiplash between false greed and sudden fear. Bitcoin XRP, not a good time to buy. Wait for more grounded aspects. Altcoins, heavily at risk, likely see sharp downside on overextension. Precious metals, stay relatively firm. DXY, could whipsaw, especially if confusion over Fed guidance persists. Vulnerable periods, June 19 morning UTC, illusion versus reality. Best to stay out of the market unless well hedged. June 21, 22, Moon in Taurus, summer solstice, Sun square Saturn aspects, Moon square Pluto, opposite Lilith, conjunct Venus, Mars sextile Jupiter sentiment, neutral to bearish start with bullish recovery potential score. 5.510 The Moon in Taurus favors stability and accumulation, and its conjunction with Venus on June 22 provides a subtle boost to confidence in core assets like Bitcoin and XRP. However, this comes on the heels of the Sun square Saturn, which temporarily dampens sentiment and keeps markets cautious. Pluto and Lilith bring themes of hidden pressure or suppressed panic, possibly manifesting as sudden dips or liquidity stress on June 21. But the Mars-Jupiter sextile restores energy and drive by June 22, presenting a short-term buy-the-dip opportunity, particularly in Bitcoin and high-quality altcoins with strong fundamentals. Risk mode, moves from risk-off to balanced as stability returns. Fear and greed, low fear turning neutral. Gradual re-entry phase begins. Bitcoin and XRP, watch for reversals on June 22. Could present a good entry. Altcoins, quality matters, top alts may begin slow recovery. Gold silver, hold strong, benefit from Saturn's caution. DXY, could weaken as markets pivot back to risk. Buy the dip opportunity, late June 21 into June 22, especially after Mars-Jupiter sextile. Vulnerable period, early June 21, Moon square Pluto. Avoid chasing. June 23, 24, Moon in Gemini, Sun conjunct Jupiter, Sun square Neptune key aspects, Moon conjunct Uranus, Moon square Mars, Mercury square Chiron sentiment, neutral to volatile with bullish spike potential score. 6.510 The Gemini moon encourages fast-moving markets, trading chatter, and quick sentiment swings. A major polarity defines this period, the Sun conjunct Jupiter in Cancer, bullish, expansive, it clashes with Sun square Neptune, uncertainty, illusion. Traders may overreact to news or narratives, especially in altcoins, which can spike on FOMO but risk quick reversals. The Moon square Mars adds impatience and emotional trading, so this is a time to stay nimble. Risk mode, mixed, flipping between risk-on and risk-off within hours. Fear and greed index, momentary greed due to Jupiter, followed by doubt from Neptune. Bitcoin and XRP, not ideal for long-term entries, short-term scalps may work. Altcoins, opportunity for quick upside plays, but beware of traps. Precious metals, gold silver may face confusion, range-bound due to unclear Fed signals. DXY, likely to soften slightly if Sun-Jupiter optimism dominates. Vulnerable period, June 23, early UTC, Moon square Mars. Avoid leverage. Buy the dip opportunity, only in scalps if major alts dip after hype. Stay cautious. June 25, 26, Moon in Cancer, New Moon, Mercury enters Leo key aspects, New Moon conjunct Jupiter, Sun sextile Mars, Mercury sextile Uranus sentiment, bullish with strategic entry potential score. 7.510 This new moon in Cancer marks a significant emotional reset, especially with its conjunction to Jupiter, amplifying optimism and suggesting new growth cycles. With Sun sextile Mars and Mercury sextile Uranus, the market sentiment turns to opportunity and innovation, especially in Bitcoin and Layer 1 altcoins. This is one of the best windows for entering positions in late June, especially if dips from the previous days created discounted prices. Risk mode, transition to risk on, especially in quality coins. Fear and greed, gradual shift toward confidence and moderate greed. Bitcoin XRP, good time to consider adding or re-entering. Altcoins, Layer 1 and infrastructure coins may outperform. Gold silver, slight pullback possible as capital moves into risk assets. DXY, could weaken as risk appetite builds. Buy the dip window, June 25th, new moon, and early June 26th. Vulnerable period, June 25th moon square Neptune, be selective, don't overextend. June 27th, 28th, moon in Leo, Mercury trine Saturn and Neptune key aspects, moon conjunct Mercury, moon opposite Pluto, Venus sextile north node sentiment, cautiously bullish, confidence grows, power struggles appear score. 6.810 The Leo moon inspires boldness and emotional courage in the markets, and with Mercury trining Saturn and Neptune, traders gain clearer long-term vision. However, the moon's opposition to Pluto reveals tension with regulators or institutional power, creating brief waves of fear or resistance. Bitcoin and large-cap altcoins may lead the charge in recovery, while meme or low-cap tokens remain volatile and manipulated. Risk mode, leaning toward risk-on with institutional caution. Fear and greed, climbing toward greed, but still with undercurrents of anxiety. Bitcoin XRP, gradual accumulation continues, hold or buy on weakness. Altcoins, blue-chip alts gain. Avoid overhyped narratives. Gold silver, rebound slightly as investors hedge against unseen risks. DXY, slight pullback, dollar weakens as risk assets rotate in. Vulnerable period, June 27th moon opposite Pluto, geopolitical or regulatory shocks. Buying opportunity, steady accumulation on dips, especially in BTC and top altcoins. June 29th, 30, moon in Virgo, Mercury opposite Pluto, moon conjunct Mars key aspects, moon square Venus and Uranus, moon conjunct Mars, Mercury opposite Pluto sentiment, bearish spike, correction risk and harsh reality check score. 3.510 As the moon enters Virgo and aligns with Mars, traders turn hyperanalytical and reactive. The Mercury-Pluto opposition intensifies mental focus, but also brings revelations or data dumps that could spook markets, especially if connected to regulation, fraud, or macro shifts. Combined with the moon squares to Venus and Uranus, volatility surges, likely in a downward direction. This is a classic dump then recovery window where emotional trades are punished. Risk mode, strong risk off, defensive positioning advised. Fear and greed, sudden spike in fear, especially around altcoins. Bitcoin XRP, hold off on buys, expect potential short-term pullbacks. Altcoins, most vulnerable, sharp retracements possible. Gold silver, could rally if market fear spikes. DXY, potential bounce as safe haven flows resume. Vulnerable period, June 29th entire day, moon square Uranus and Venus. Buy the dip opportunity, June 30th if market overcorrects, focus on Bitcoin only. This concludes our crypto astrology forecast for June 2025. Please support my work by liking, sharing, and commenting. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.